what makes people not take an action? There's only 8 reasons why somebody would get stuck on or get paralyzed or frozen when they're making a decision. Consistency, loss aversion, selection difficulty, preference stability, value conflicts, anticipated regret, anticipated blame, perceived cost of action or change. So when somebody goes to a sales process, they don't make a decision. One of the reasons why they won't make a decision is because they want to remain consistent with an earlier decision they make. If you say to yourself, I don't want to buy any more online courses, I don't want to do any more personal development anymore this year because I want to save a bit of money. But then something comes out from one of your mentors or something that's, come out that's amazing, incredible, it's a one chance offer. You might think about maybe taking up that offer, but you have a consistency conflict. You want to remain consistent with your earlier decision, especially if you've been telling your wife or your friends or something like that. You want to remain consistent with an earlier decision that you've made. People perceive loss greater than perceived gain will avoid it at all costs. If they perceive that there is a loss or a perceived loss or a potential loss when they, do business with you, then they might be less likely to do business with you, especially considering with the status quo bias, we have to remember that we believe that our current life path is not costing us, harming us, damaging us, or taking us away from our goal. We believe that our current path is a good path, but in most cases it's actually doing harm to us, but we don't realize that because we don't believe that's happening. So we believe that our current trajectory is a neutral point rather than a loss situation. So we have to make a decision whether or not we're going to change and potentially lose out. This is a big one, selection difficulty. If there are too many choices available, the default is to choose none. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that a lot of companies who have a lot of choices, if they don't have some sort of way to help people make a decision, will lose out on a lot of sales. They did a test with a condiment company, jams for toast. So they had this stall in the grocery store and they had 28 different flavors of whatever. And then they did another test where they just had 6 different types of jams. What they found was more people went up to the one with 28 different jams, but more people bought from the one that only had 6. So even though perceptually a lot of people were going up to the one with more choices, less people bought in that scenario. In LA, obviously Uber is a big thing, and it's, I don't know, is it cheaper than a taxi in LA? It is in Australia, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it depends on what Uber's doing their fine. Like in San Diego, you can actually do an Uber for about a third of the taxi.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in Australia, it could be double or triple in a taxi, but there's so many people that still use taxis. And this is another example of preference stability, that once they're used to doing something in a certain way, it's just an automatic thing. They don't even think about wanting to change, or they might fear changing because they want to remain stable with their preference. There's a lot of examples in this case. This is another example why in a lot of cases when somebody is unhappy with a supplier of theirs in certain situations, they're still less likely to go with a new supplier because they prefer the stability or the perceived stability. Yeah, exactly. Values conflict. Competing values mean that it's easier to choose, it's easier to not choose anything. So if I had 8 kids and I really wanted to get an Aston Martin, which is a 2-door sports car, but I also recognize that I probably need to get a bus to cart my kids around, then I'm going to have a values conflict because I don't know, I have 2 competing values or ideas. So then it's easy just not to do anything at all. There's a lot of examples in this scenario. Anticipated regret. The anticipated regret of making the wrong decision. Who has had this in their life? Like when you've come to make a decision that you've had anticipated regret, right?
Dinner, when you order something and then you get something better and you're like, that looks better than my food.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that this is, for everyone that's got that scouting coaching program, this is like the number 1 hurdle for most of us in our prospects.
Yeah, definitely. Anticipated blame. Who's had this? That the anticipation of being blamed for making the wrong decision. And what kind of scenarios do you think that might be in?
Lots of B2B.
Yeah?
Big time B2B.
Yeah? And also in life partners? When I send Leah to go pick up like a hard drive or some sort of computer equipment, I know I'm going to get a phone call, even though I've told her the model number.
She does the same thing. She throws nickels around.
She doesn't want to come home with the wrong thing.
But it's the same with clients when they play bad when they blame the leads and they're not blaming their own sales process.
Yeah.
Like the leads are bad, it's like, no, you don't know how to sell.
Yeah. Well, this is more to do with, you know, if you're a manager at a company and you make the wrong, you buy the wrong software, or I mean, especially if you're talking about millions of dollars or something that's going to impact the company in a big way, this is going to be massive. This is going to be a massive issue. Perceived cost of action or change. When we did mortgage marketing, one of the things we've picked up on was people believed that it was going to cost them more money to change their home loan than it would be compared to the savings they were going to make. So that was one of the big messages that we had to put out to the marketplace, just saying it's not going to cost you much money, if anything, to change your home loan, and you could save up to $10,000 a year. So this is a big one. If they believe, rightly or wrongly so, that there is a perceived cost of action or change, when you know, because you're in the industry, you work in it every day, you know that the cost is either minimal or it's way better to change because you're going to save more money in the long run. Think about, is there a perceived cost of action or change, and think about how you can address that.